Welcome back. Let's now move over to Monitor. Once you've developed your pipelines and your SQL scripts or notebooks, when you're executing them, you want to monitor what's happening. So that's when you come over to Monitor and you can monitor a few things. The first thing is to monitor the pools. For example, you can see the status of your SQL pools, Spark pools, and the Data Explorer pools. At the moment, we only have the SQL pool, which is the serverless SQL pool, and as you can see, that's online. So that's up and running. But when we create dedicated pools, we are going to see them as well. And any Spark pools you create will be in here, and you can see the active users and allocated vCores and all of those kind of information here. And similarly, you can see the same information for Data Explorer pools as well. And in terms of activities, when you run your SQL queries or Custo query language queries, you're going to have that information in here. We ran a few SQL queries, so let's see whether they've come through. So we ran SQL statements during the previous session and they've all appeared here and you've got the actual statement that's being run. So as you can see, I ran a SQL statement to query data from the taxizone.csv file and it's got the summit times and it's got the durations and data processed as well. As I explained previously, serverless SQL pool charges us based on the data we processed rather than the resources being provisioned. Because it's entirely serverless, we don't provision any resources. Microsoft takes care of all of that and we just pay for the data we are processing. In this case it says 10 megabytes, but it might not be 10 megabytes. The minimum it charges is 10 megabytes. That's why it is 10 megabytes on all of those. And similarly, when you run the KQL request or the Spark applications, when you're running them, you're going to see all of that information here and you can debug them as well. And if you have created pipelines in your integrate and the pipeline runs and the trigger runs and the integration runtime status will be visible for you here and you can do a lot of filters on these things. So for example, the default is last 24 hours worth of trigger runs were displayed here. And if you wanted to change that to the last 30 days, then you can choose that as well, actually.